Our game space today is file naming conventions, to choose your file naming conventions. And that is this space right here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the instructions and we're going to go through them together today. So first off, file naming conventions are just a way that you decide you want to name the files and folders on your computer. This is a super personal thing and you can do it the way you want to do it and the way that makes sense to you. And my goal here in guiding you today is to give you some ideas so that you can make good file naming decisions. First, I'm going to share the two different platforms that most of us have. We have PC computer users and we have Mac computer users. And the file systems within those two different platforms are very, very similar, but they may not look that way at first glance. So we're going to talk about that first and then go on to the more nitty gritty of your files. So first off, in the PC, you're going to have a folder that looks a bit like this one here on the right. It's the yellow folder and it'll be in your toolbar. If you have a Mac, you're going to have Finder, which is this little blue smiley guy. So I'm going to demonstrate first on the PC. So here is our PC and notice that we've got, I'm going to center it here. Notice that down here we've got this little yellow folder. So I'm going to click on that yellow folder and it's going to bring me to my documents. Now the documents that I'm going to be looking at are in my personal OneDrive. This particular OneDrive is attached to my computer. And if you're more interested in how that's connected, check out the Cloud Drives game space. Oh, we're not going to do that now. The PC always wants to install updates, so we're going to do that later. Right now, we're looking at the folders that I have here on this OneDrive account, and we're going to do a little bit of a tour here. On the PC and the Mac as well, we have your computer wants to organize itself in two primary ways. One, either it'll organize your files and folders by their name or by the date modified. So if I click on the name, it's going to alphabetize them or alphabetize them backwards. The PC likes to keep folders on the top, or this here is a special folder called desktop, so I can see the desktop on a computer, the documents folder, because I'm looking in the OneDrive. Pictures here, this is a picture folder, but most of the folders that I've created are going to be these little yellow folders, and that's perfectly fine. Down below, we have individual files. So these individual files are things that I have created, and they're not organized in any sort of folder. So that's how this is arranged. Now, in your file naming system, your computer, when you have sorted it by name, they want to sort themselves according to special character, then by number, and then alphabetically. And we can use this to our advantage, and I'm going to show you how. So we're going to start with the primary folders. And when I'm talking about primary folders, I mean the folders that show up when you first click on your personal OneDrive account, or if you have a business OneDrive account, these would be the primary folders in this one, in the personal OneDrive, or in the documents folder. So those are the primary folders. And then we get into subfolders where you would click on one of these folders and you might have more information in here. So that's the difference between primary and subfolders. And I won't get too deeply into that, but that's what I'm talking about when I say it. So in the PC here, your PC wants to organize things by name, and we can use this file naming scheme to determine where in this lineup our favorite folders go. So you can have it so that when you are sorting by name, you know exactly where to look and that they won't move around. So let's talk about how that can work to our advantage using that system. So we'll take some basic folders. We have like a folder for backups. We have a folder for maybe your clients, your finances, marketing operations, and personal pictures. And notice in this list here, they're just simple alphabetical. But what if backups isn't your most favorite folder? What if it's not the folder you go to every day? What if the folder you go to every day is like operations? We can put a little one in front of operations and it'll pop it to the top when sorting by name. I'll show you how it's done here on the PC. So I'm going to go down, I'm going to find my very important operations folder. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to click on it once and then I'm going to click on it twice. Now, this is not a double click. This is a very slow and deliberate click once to um, identify it, and then click twice to open up this little box that will allow me to rename this folder. Now, you want to be very careful with this because if I were to accidentally bump my keyboard, I would wipe out the name. Now, if I do that, I don't need to panic. I'm going to just click elsewhere and it'll come back. See there, it's come back. But I do want to change the name. So I'm going to click it once to activate it, click it twice to bring that box back up. And then I'm going to click a third time by moving my little line here in the front of the O so that now I have a blinking line in front of the O. You see how that's blinking? And I'm going to just do a 1 and a dash. And then I'm going to hit enter to lock it in. And that folder will plop itself right up at the top so that it's more in a more important location. So I can do the same. Let's say that I want to have my financial folder. It's also very important, but it's not quite as important as the operations. So I'm going to give that one a 2. And then clients, my clients are very important. So we're going to go ahead and click once, click twice to open that up, click the third time in front of the C and put in the number 3. And that will put my little files here, 01, 02, 03. And then we have the rest of the files down below here. Because as you go about doing what you're going to do on the computer, there will occasionally be folders that get put on your computer. Like here, we've got some examples are this shared with others and public. These are ones that your computer may have put on there, and you don't need them per se, but you don't want to delete them because they may have some things in them that are important and they're associated with other programs on your computer. What you want is for them to be down at the bottom so that they're out of your way. So this is how it's arranged on the PC. Now, the second thing that you can do is you can arrange things by date modified. So this date modified, notice we've got different dates here. These are the dates when this file was last messed with. Sort of. You can't really trust it. But we're going to go ahead and click date modified. In theory, it lets you put your most recent folders up at the top, but this changes and sometimes it can make your files and folders difficult to find. So if you're like, when was the last time I messed with that thing? You can click date modified. Your file might pop up. I rarely do date modified. I like to keep them alphabetical. So you click on name and that will sort them that way. So this is how the PC looks with the yellow folders. I'm going to minimize this screen and we're going to do the same activity with the Mac. So if you have a Mac, you're going to be more likely to recognize this little Finder guy. So when we click on him, we bring up our file folder with the Finder. And again, we have the same basic folder structure. We have name, we have date modified. We also have size and kind, and these are very interesting. And it looks this way because of another fun feature of the view. Here I could change it so it looks like it has icons, it has the folders in a nice little row. We've also got this little landscapey kind of outline format. And then we have this uh, bigger view sort of format. I like this one the most for most any sort of file organization that I'm doing. There we go. And the same can be done with the PC. I didn't demonstrate that, so let me bring that back up really quick. So here the PC, it has the same thing in this view menu where you can make your icons bigger, very large, medium. Your details is going to give you the most information. So these views are very useful, especially as you do naming conventions. So, but I'm going to put the PC away and we'll go back to our little Mac view. Notice here my change came over because this particular drive is a cloud drive. It's one drive. It's connected to both my PC and my Mac, which is super fun. And we're going to look at these files here. So I've got this one, two, and three, and they're my top folders that are possibly most important. And I'm going to go look at my list again and go through to see what other ways that I can arrange it. So here I've got the one, two, three to keep them at the top, but I could also use capitals to really catch the eye as I'm naming these. And so let's say all of my Luxcentric files should be together. And notice that they are here. These are the Luxcentric ones with the L. That keeps them together because it is alphabetical. And I could also use a combination of that eye-catching capitals and the numbers. So that's depending on how you want to manage your file system. Because some of you will have like a business folder and a personal folder, but let's say you in your business, there's like three or four major folders that you visit a lot. You might want to have them be your business name and what they are. So maybe this would be like business financial, business clients, business operations. You can add that to your folder names. So let's go in a little bit deeper here and we're going to think about our subfolders. So let's use our picture folder for this example. So here I've got pictures down here, and if I wanted to move it up higher, I could just put a number in front of the picture folders, but I'm not going to bother with that because this is my pictures folder. Everything that's a picture goes in here. And I get a lot of questions about how to organize pictures. And here is the best way that I have found, and that is chronologically. So as we go into this folder, we can get super granular with this, or we can be a little bit more loose. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called 2021. So file, new folder, pictures 2021. So here I've named this folder Pictures 2021. This is super descriptive, telling us what this is. So if I went searching for pictures, this folder would come up, and then 2021. Now this is very nice. It's descriptive. However, it's going to always be down in the P's. So if I had pictures 2022 or pictures 2019, pictures 2018, they would all be here, pictures in those numbers, and they would be chronological. But if I move this 2021 to the front and take it off of the back, it'll pop that folder up higher here with the twos. And so that puts the date as the more important sorting organizational system. So I do that. Let's say you just want to sort your pictures by year. You can just start dumping pictures in here and they're going to be somewhat organized. You may decide that you want to not only organize them according to the year, but you also want to organize them according to the month. And notice here I have my folders for 2020. And this arrangement, you'll notice the numbers in the front. And I'll show you why that is. So as I've created folders in the past, I've got, say, January 2020. Well, this January is way down here. And then April 2020 is way up here. Let's arrange it. That's why we give it the number according to the month. 01 will pop January up at the top because January is the beginning. April, well, we know that's the fourth month of the year, so we're going to give it a 4. March is the third, 03, and February is the second in 02. So here we've got our months, and now we've got the 01 for the month, 2020, 02 month, 2020. So that these are all chronological. Now, if I wanted to create another folder for January 2021, let's demonstrate how that goes. So here I open this new folder. I do my same system of 01, 2021. I can do it that way. And notice we've got 01 January 2020, 01 January 2021. that may or may not be how we want to organize our pictures. We can take this January 2021 folder and put it into the 2021 pictures. That is one effective way of getting them all, together. But if you want a big long list of chronological photo files, you can add the 2020 to the front of it, and it will go down with the other 2021 pictures. So these are different strategies you can use for organizing it. Mostly what I like to do is I like to put all 12 files in a year folder when I'm organizing pictures. And then the individual pictures themselves, I generally don't bother naming because there's just way too many of those. So we're going to go back to our game space and talk about some other strategies for different types of folders. So now we're going to talk about shared folders and the strategy for keeping those in order and how those should be named. So the shared folders, what I generally like to do is if I am the owner of the file, if I'm the one that has created the file, I put my name in the front dash their name. So in this example, it would be Luxcentric and Drew Marvin, Luxcentric and Mary and Kyle. If somebody else If somebody else has shared the file with me, I'd rather have their name in front and then my name. The worst thing I could do would be to simply share a file with someone and name it with their name. I hate it when people share files with me and just share a file named Nicole, because it's like I could have 7 or 8 files named Nicole and I don't know who I am sharing it with. So as we're looking down here in our top level files again, notice some of them I have Luxcentric-278 marketing, Luxcentric-how to organize. I have these named that way because these are shared. It indicates that it's a shared file. Down a little bit further, I've got one where ProTinker shared it with Luxcentric. So ProTinker is the owner of this file, and I'm shared with that. So I know who this folder is for. Now you may have like a project that you work with someone and they all know what that project is, and you can name it perhaps the project name. And that as long as everybody knows what that folder's name is, then those shared folders will be good. So now we're moving on. We've got our folders kind of figured out. And as you're kind of working through this in your own system, one idea is to just simply go into your operations folder. We're going to go into operations and let's just create a Word document. I'm going to get a new Word document here. File, new document. Let's pop this up here and we're just going to call this file naming conventions. Okay, and just notate how you want to do it. And they can be quick little scratchy notes or whatever. But as you do them, we're going to go file, save as. Let's save it in our operations. Put it in here. So file naming conventions, I'm in operations, I'm going to save it here. And so this way I can put any sort of notes that I have for naming these files. And I'll sign into that Microsoft account later. So let's go back to our drive and continue on through our game space instructions. So individual files, I do want to give you a word of warning. Make sure that your files are closed before changing the names of things. Oh, let's bring that back up. Before changing the names of the things, because there is a potential that if I had this file open or this household research file open and changed its name in here, that could corrupt the file. So make sure your files are closed before you change the names of things. So let's talk about individual file names. There are 2 parts to a file name. One is the extension, and then the second part is the file name. So this dot Out to the right of the dot is your extension, to the left of the dot is the file name. You choose the file name. The program chooses the extension. So as we look here, we're going to look at some files. I think I had some in the operations here. As I look down here, I've got troubleshooting database.xlsx. This is an Excel file. I know this because it says .xlsx, and that is a standard file extension for an Excel spreadsheet. Down here, I've got docx. That is a standard file extension for a Word document. On this game space here, I have a list of some of the more popular file extensions. The program, the Word document, the Excel document, or if you use PowerPoint, they determine what this file type is, and you generally do not want to mess with it. So if you see a PDF, you can't just turn it into a Word document by changing it PDF to docx. A PDF is a PDF, and that extension tells you what type of file it is. So to the left of the name, that's all you. You can decide however you want that to be. And in deciding these file names, you've got several different options and ideas. If you want your files to be organized and findable according to a chronological order, you can use the date time element. So here in the date time element, Y means the 4-digit year. Uh, 2Ms means the 2-digit month, 2D means the 2-digit day. Then you have a double H, double M, double S. So that's hours, minutes, seconds. So this, this date element is a useful part of a file name if you want to create a system for versioning your files. Like if you write make a Word document and this is version 1, version 2, version 3, you don't want to get into a situation where you're like version 1A, version 1, 2, 2B, 2C. You want to have a very consistent set of versioning. And this date, time, hour, minute, second is a very useful way of doing this because they are going to stay in order when you are arranging things according to name. So we could have this, let's say we have this end of program procedures document. Let's say that I want to save this, but I want to do some editing. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this. And I'm going to say that this is going to be version 2021 of January 28. And if I'm likely to want to have different copies of this throughout the day, then I might go hours, seconds, minutes, but I'm not going to go that far here. I will know that that this date is the time, I guess, that I had solidified this particular file. If I want to have another version of it, a more recent version, like let's say tomorrow, I want to keep everything I've done this here and I want a whole new version, I can just make a copy and shift this date to the next date. That's a very common strategy of versioning. Next, we have a size element in files. This is very good for headshots and such. So if you have like headshots, you can have them small, medium, and large. This is my small headshot, this is my medium headshot, and large headshot. Um, or maybe you have a small, medium, and large logo. You can add this size element to your files. And then you have category and topic elements. So is this a blog post? So you could say this is a blog post, the title of this blog post is, and then whether or not this is the image that goes to the blog post with the title of that, if this is a draft, if this is promotion materials. These sorts of things are things that you consider as you're going through and choosing your names. Descriptive name. This is becoming more and more this is becoming more and more common to have these very, very large names for different files, especially with blog posts. So like this particular blog post that I'm working on, its blog post name is actually game-choose-file-naming-conventions. So in my computer, I have a Word document of this same name with various versions. So very similar to this, that paper with the quote from that guy in 1990 version 3.1 DOC. This versioning, you can either use this number element or you can use the date element. And we can continue to go on and on and on about with these different strategies for file namings, but I think we're going to leave it here, and you can go ahead and determine how you want your files to be named. And as you're thinking about it, be aware that depending on how you've named your files, searching for them becomes either difficult or hard. So if you have a standard that all of your blog posts have the word blog in them, you could do a search and find all of the various files that have the blog in them. You could also use the date field, or you could use the type field. You could use a variety of things when you're doing searching, depending on how you name your files. So that is what we have today. So thank you for joining me in this game space. Be sure to take a look at the game page on my website at luxcentric.com /game. Thank you all for joining me, and until next time, I will see you all about the internet.